Hi friends, welcome back. Last week we did part 1 of our lilac series and we talked about the techniques and tips on how to paint lilacs. We did some lilacs. We did some color mixing as well. Today we are going to put what we learned last week into a full composition. Also, I have something to show you guys. So this is my old Mei Liang palette. Many of you have seen it. What's happening today? My palette, I use it a lot in painting tutorials. Well, Mei Liang, and it's wonderful because it's student grade, but it's got really good pigmentation, high quality, vibrant colors, very smooth. But also they sent me the tube set, and these are all the same 36 colors is what I was told, but we get a lot more paint and we're going to put them in this tray and paint our lilacs today. So let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to start with my number 12 round brush. I do have a number 6, and this little filbert's just hanging out there. I'll just let her hang out, not necessarily in the plan here. So I filled up my brush with water, and we're going to start, we want a really light color. I've got these purples, which are very similar, but this one is a little bit more red. This one has a little bit more blue in it. And I like this pink, and I like to add in sometimes just a little bit of mixing just to see what we like. This is a really nice, warm, almost pinky purple color. If I grab some blue, could change it a little bit as well. So we're just gonna go with a really light mix of color over here, and we're gonna start by dabbing. Just dabbing. If you have too much liquid, dab your brush. And we're going to start dabbing, making these little, loose bloom shapes. And I love leaving that white space like we practiced last week. This is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, you could skip to that and start with that part. We had a lot of fun on there. I'm gonna add some more blue. And let's see here. So when you're painting loose, you really can leave a lot up to interpretation. My whole thing is I want to kind of start going a little bit wider, and then you start to get a little bit more narrower, and then you have your stems. And we're going to be doing 3 blooms. So, some of these things are going to ebb and flow into each other. I'm going to grab some water, wipe off the side, and now I just have mostly water on my brush. And then what we can do, sometimes there's parts that stick out more than others. We can start poking in some color, just like that, wet on wet. If I want more blue, just grab some blue. So you can see with this base layer, it's very forgiving. You're just putting color down at this point and having fun. And then we're going to go in more with the details later. So right now, just choose the colors that speak to you. And I do want to be aware that we're going to have a lot of kind of pokiness here, where the blooms are sticking out, little pieces of petals are sticking out. We're not going for this straight, smooth cone shape. Absolutely not. A little bit lower on this side than the other. And then as we're letting that hang out, we can also add a little bit, I'll put a pause on what I was thinking. All right, so we're gonna go with this side over here. I'm gonna maybe do a little bit more bluer. So I'm just pulling this down. I love this paint. If you are thinking of getting new paint, definitely consider this set because it is fabulous. I also have a discount code that you can use if you order right away, and you're gonna have a ton of paint and a ton of fun because Mei Liang is really wonderful. I'd say for all levels, but it is considered a student grade, and I think it's quite affordable and you get a ton of paint. So it's very smooth, very bright. Right now, of course, these colors are not that bright because, we are watering them down a lot, but they have some nice, thick paint here and they go a long way. So you can see lots of white space that I am leaving. I want to make sure that is something we establish. So you can work pretty quickly. I do want to do another set that kind of poofs off over here that will be connected with the main stem, just for some interest. So we've got some weight on one side. I grab a little bit of pink here. And just to change it up a little bit. So these two will kind of connect onto this main stem. And you can always add more of these loose blooms if you think that you need more later on. So we're just going to start kind of putting in things where we want them to go, not too worried about, you know, where exactly we're going, because I might bring these down more afterwards. But I do want to do another one that kind of, I don't want it to look the same, but maybe, it's hard to know sometimes, maybe a little bit skinnier right over here. We want things to be, you know, kind of their own, not just matching each other. So really quick brush strokes. Unless you want to work slower, that's totally fine too. It's really important to work at your pace, and you can always pause these videos if they go a little too fast for you, for your comfort, and that's completely fine. So what I want to start doing is adding in some green. I'm loving this green. It's lovely sappy. It's brighter than a sap. It's got a lot of good yellow in it. And I'm going to just start adding in some of my stems here. So just sketchy marks, you know, I don't really commit to a hard line. I just do these little sketchy marks, and that's my preference. So then we're going to do this, and then just going to connect those together, and I'm probably going to fill everything in with a lot more blooms. But for now, that's what we're going to keep it as, swirling my paint around. And I also like to start connecting things on the inside. So we're doing these little diagonal lines. It's okay if things start to, you know, bleed, because that's what it does. Watercolor moves and bleeds and does all these crazy funky things that sometimes surprise you. And, you know, you just got to be okay with that element of surprise, because it can stress you out too, right? I got to take a deep breath. You got to take a deep breath. You can't take life so seriously, you guys, because there's so much seriousness in life anyway. So my question would be, how can you find moments of relaxation and reprieve from the stressors in your life? Watercolor is a way, guys. Just finding ways to be creative, finding ways to enjoy, relax, try something new, and experiencing good, healthy dopamine when you're creating something, creating music, or, you know, an item, you know, whether it's a painting or a meal. It's just a fun experience that we need to, you know, maybe start to add to our life as a new normal, because it really helps with our mental health and our well-being. All right, so we've got the basic parts down there. I'm going to grab that number 12 brush again. See, guys, I'm working with really watery paint, so it's really not something to be worried about. Just take it easy as you're adding in blooms and just kind of filling in more space. I don't want all this stem happening. I like things to be nice and tight together as a lovely composition. And so now that we kind of know where we're going, I'm going to start putting in, you know, more marks here. So how are you feeling about your painting right now? I want you to take a kind of a breather and check and see, how are you feeling? If you feel like you're not loving something, just remind yourself you're practicing. All right, a lot of times I get into the painting zone, and then when I sort of check in with myself again, I'm like, oh wait, what was that thing that I did? You know, that looks strange, or that looks weird. And I got to remind myself, this is always practice for me too. And I am learning, you know, what I like and what I don't like about my process. And it's okay, you know, to judge that process. So I would like to start adding in some leaves. I'm going to use the number 12 round still. And we've got this lovely color here. I've got brown to neutralize. Took so much brown, you guys. I do not need that much brown. Let's take a bath with the brush. Take the brush. Give the brush a bath. And so I like to swirl to start mixing my colors so I can just know like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're going to start to get some interesting mix somewhere in the middle. I'm going to take some of this too and just see how they all react to each other. This is neutralizing the green, which is really intense. Add a little bit more water. And we'll start adding some leaves. So I do a little stem, and then I press down with the belly of the brush, curve it around, other side to create this little C curve shape. And I fill it in now, little stem coming off the main stem. All right, let's do a little bit more concentrated version of the leaf. I want to put one, let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to put one up here. So we're just going to curve around. And leaving a little white space is pretty. I'm going to dip, swipe, and dab, and then do another one over here. And it's just sort of, you know, kind of covered up there. But we've got it in there. All right, same thing, taking off some paint and little stem, a little leaf. So now I've got different values of leaves coming together here. A little bit of that bluish. I want to see what that brown and that blue-green do. That's a really nice dark color. So you can play like I am and experiment. Just kind of grab the color that you want and sort of a mixture there of brown. I actually like that. I don't know how that turned out. I've got a lot of brown here. For some reason, you guys, it happens. Okay, I'm gonna take some more of that brown and green color and just put some little leaves in here too. A little bit of a stem. I use the pointy side of the brush. And sometimes I just like to do a little, you know, intuitive brush stroke there. All right. Let me see here. Add some here. So lilacs have just the most, let's do darker. Because we have the stem, we can go over with a darker, and that'll look a little bit more natural, like we meant to have the stem underneath. You know, lilacs are just so absolutely gorgeous and have such an amazing smell. So I can't wait to add in some of those to my new garden space, hopefully next year. Lilac bushes are amazing. I grew up with them. Definitely very nostalgic for me when I get to sniff a lovely floral. All right, and they come in such beautiful colors as well. All right, since everything is dry now, we can go ahead with that second layer and not disturb it. So I'm just gonna grab more water on my number 6 round brush, and we're gonna do a variety of shapes. So I'm grabbing this purple first. I don't wanna use these guys straight up. They're really, I mean, you could, but the intensity is not exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna start mixing some of this pink color in to create this really warm purple color, and then I'm gonna grab some of this blue and mix that in over here to create, well, that looks about the same. We're gonna add a little bit more blue. A really nice bluey purple. And if you do a lot more blue over here, you can have that contrast too. So we've got several shades of purple. Let's get to it. So this is the part that feels scary sometimes. Don't let it feel scary. Just go with the process. And we are grabbing our paint, dabbing our brush, and we are going to start just kind of sketching in some little shapes, just like that. Sometimes I like to press with the belly of the brush, some little, you know, leaf or petal shapes. And I like to kind of just vary it up. A little bit of sketchiness is kind of fun. Now, I'm not, going for realistic, right? That's not my style. And if it's your style, that's totally fine. But I want you to kind of, just get caught up, lost in the moment of adding these little marks and, just see how it makes you feel. You're starting to see this is coming to life. I'm going to take off some of that paint and dab it. And now I can even do like a little bit more of these darkish, or it's really not dark, but it's darker than what we have there. And you can just blot on some paint, especially if you have some places where you feel like it's bare and you needed to cover that up a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna add in some more of these marks and then we'll go to the next shade of purple. Okay, I'm going to use this very blue purple here, and we're going to do the same type of thing, but I like to, if you're having the brush face you, then you're pressing like that. All of a sudden you're getting some really cute marks, just like the tips of the petals, and you can pull out some of those in some of the spaces or do those little sketchy marks again. And, just kind of randomly put them on there. Sometimes I like to be a little heavy on one color on one side, and that's more like maybe that's where the shadows are for that bloom or those flowers. And sometimes I want to add in just a little bit of that pink color too, just for contrast. So same method, sketchy marks. Sometimes just using, light pressure with your brush can create some amazing little effects. Sometimes just little dots, little squigglies can have a really nice effect as well. And this is giving depth and personality to your painting, and also just building up those layers, which, now you've got those light layers with that first basic wash, and then the medium tones in that second wash. And if you wanted to go dark, you could do a third one as well. And I'm just going to go over, need a little more water to make it spreadable, and just go over these stems lightly to add in another layer. And I'm using really light pressure as I'm doing this. And I do want to take some yellow and do some splatter. So really light, watery mix of yellow, and then take my brush and just rotate it, get that splatter down on the paper. And it goes everywhere, and that's okay. A little more green too in some spaces where you can do some lines and kind of connect things. Sometimes I just like to do a little bit extra. I like to look and see kind of where the edges are on some of these. And if I feel like we've kind of lost between where this edge ends and this one starts, then you can kind of go around and you add in maybe a little bit more of these darker marks, because that's where the edges of this one here. And just sort of let that stand out a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed painting lilacs with me today. I'm really excited for the series for next week. I'm not gonna tell you, it'll be a surprise. So if you'd like to get the paints that I talked about today, you can click the link below and get them yourself. They're wonderful. They're gonna last a long time because it's tubes. You just get more paint for the dollar that you spend. Reminding you guys, I'm on Patreon, so if you wanna click the link below as well, $3 a month and up are my tier levels, and you get exclusive content from me. And also check out my latest Skillshare class, which is all about loose florals and beginner techniques as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon on the next video.